All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today was the big solar eclipse, the CERN, the National Guard being deployed, and luckily, no disasters. We're going to talk about what actually did happen today, some of the crazier things that did end up going down, like some of the crazy people that came out for the eclipse, including one that said that God told her to do some horrible things. We'll talk about that. And of course, it brung millions of people to some of the tiniest towns to witness this solar event. Now, I saw a bunch of people before this saying, why would people spend all the money to go travel and see this when, you can just go watch videos of it? As somebody who saw the 2017 event, I wouldn't say, again, I wouldn't do it twice, but since it was right over me and I was able to watch it, I would say that it was something that it was worth it. Like, luckily, it went directly over me in 2017, and I was able to see it for free. In fact, I borrowed somebody else's, $6 cheesy paper glasses to watch it, and it was really, really cool. Would I spend thousands of dollars or buy a plane ticket to go see it? I don't know if I would have. I've already seen one, so I know what it's like, and it was a crazy experience. I told you guys, it's like you're in a daytime beautiful day, or at least the day I watched it, and then all of a sudden you're at nighttime. You can see stars. It's really, really wild, especially if you have the right conditions. Now, people from all over the country saw it, and of course, even folks, I guess, in Ireland saw a partial eclipse. They saw it from an angle, but yeah, people were pretty blown away by it. Now, I think we also got lucky because we are actually technically still in Ramadan, which ends tomorrow night at dusk. So that is a holiday where it is a sacred holiday, and many of the leaders in certain groups detest violence going down. So a lot of people are saying that we're not exactly in the clear yet for any kind of threats. But again, we are super lucky, and prayers were answered. It says that the total solar eclipse brought America to a standstill on Monday as millions stopped work and school to find any point that they could view the rare celestial phenomenon. The first total eclipse became visible in the United States at 1:32 p.m. Central. As it moved across the Lone Star State, the total eclipse was visible in Dallas for 3 minutes and 51 seconds, which that seems a whole lot longer than what I ended up seeing this for, and I'm guessing that's only a few seconds of that is when it actually blacks all the way out. But the eclipse sent animals at Dallas Zoo into a panic as the skies grew dark while crowds across the event's path cheered on the eclipse. Now, I actually put on the thumbnail, if you haven't seen that movie Apocalypto, if you remember, that had an allegory in it that was quite current, actually. It showed, I believe, the Mayans. It's been a long time. It's 2006 when that came out. But that was a Mel Gibson film about the solar eclipse and how they viewed it. And it was basically this theme of the end of the world. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm highly doubtful that anybody, if they haven't been spoiled, had spoilers by now. At the end of that movie, it's kind of like, it reminded me of an M. Night Shyamalan film where it has this theme of the end of the world, but yet at the very end, you see him run out of the bushes, and he sees on the water on the beach, you see all of these Americans or all of these Europeans coming on boats. And we all know once these places were discovered, what ended up happening to the native population. So it was kind of an allegory, like it wasn't the end of the world, it was the end of their world. So it was kind of a crazy movie in that sense. It had, of course, the solar eclipse was a big centerpiece of that movie. So a lot of people have been talking about that. But it's kind of an allegory to what's happening right now. We are looking at not the end of the world, but the end of our world. Especially if you're older, it already looks like a different planet. It already looks like a different place. The youth and the older folks are completely on different pages. It's really quite nuts. As far as the solar eclipse today, there are the FBI, the CIA put out a warning, DHS put warnings about these events because of the amount of people that were gathering. Now, they actually deployed National Guard all over the country, or at least all over the places that were that had millions of people gathering, and to the best of our knowledge, no serious events happened. But again, Is that because they're in a sacred holiday right now? Is it also because they didn't want to do it when you would expect? Or is the FBI and all of the rest just pulling your leg? Well, we'll talk about it today on Marfoogle TV. We're also going to talk about all of the other news, including Japan, Netanyahu. Essentially, the Middle East is about to light up. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Said it's gonna cause a big rip if fall. Feels like we fell in a pit if fall. Ignorance is this fall. After the eclipse, the chips fall. Said it's gonna cause a big rip if fall. Feels like we fell in a pit if fall. Ignorance is this fall. After the eclipse, the chips fall. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Remember, you can always find all of the wonderful mods over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Not only that, you can find all of the other creators in our friends list. So make sure to go check that out as well. You have great people like Alaska Prepper all the way to, of course, Twisted Luck Truth. So go check them out right now. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Now, did you you got a shot of this, right?
Yeah, we did. We were in the partial area because we weren't in the path, but we were able to see it. I looked at it for all of a few seconds and said, okay, neat, and took my phone out and tried to take a picture with my glasses over the phone, and it worked, and seems like the same thing I did last time I saw an eclipse. So, yeah, well, I've seen them before, so I wasn't, like you, wasn't really going to go driving across the country to get right in the middle of totality. That wasn't important to me, but it was, it's a neat thing to see for all of a moment or two. There was an eeriness, though, that, when you're not in totality, because in totality you expect it, you get dark, but when you're not in totality, you're in like this partial, that it feels like there's this haze, like the lighting it's the equivalent of having, say, a low or a light cloud cover, but you still have the bright radiant sun, so it kind of feels weird. It just feels off because you don't have that complete brightness that you're used to, but you have all of the UV that you're used to. So it's kind of strange for if you pay attention to it. I think if you were busy listening to your music and driving down the street, you probably wouldn't have noticed. But if you thought about it, you look at it, you go, yeah, it's kind of different.
I think the most eerie time here is when we had the fires all over the place and we had the eerie orange glow. Pictures of our smoke glow, were all over the world, just like California's pictures when they had the glow. And I believe in the East Coast, in Australia, and that glow when there's so much smoke that it actually covers the sun. You could look right up straight at it and you could see the whole thing. That was pretty wild. Now, I already see that. So a lot of people, there was a lot of hype around this. And so your friends and family members, I guarantee. So you warn and you tell people to prep for this. They immediately, the second that there isn't some horrible 2001 event, everybody goes, oh, see, nothing happened. It was a nothing burger. We said we hope that nothing happens. And in fact, this is a prepper channel. Preppers look at stuff and we say, even if there's a 1% chance, we're going to prep. And if something does happen, I don't think we're in the clear. And I absolutely believe that if they didn't pick today to do it, it is on purpose. Everybody is now going to drop their guard. Everybody is going to go back to normal and they're going, oh, whew. If they're forgetting all of these warnings that they're purposely putting out and pushing down your throat, then you're crazy. They also told Russia 48 hours, imminent event in 48 hours. After 48 hours, I said, hey, guys, where's this event? I called them out and I said, where's this event? Within a 2-week period, you had a massive event. And not only just a massive event exactly where they said it was going to happen. Now, where are they saying that events are going to happen here? I have talked about the time period that I believe is before November, but April into May is when everything's going to go crazy. Now, we're in the middle, not in the middle, we're at the very end of Ramadan. It is a holy period during, I believe, March 10th and April 9th. So it ends at dusk. It starts March 10th at sunrise or sunset, and it ends on dusk at April 9th, so tomorrow night. Now, many religious leaders say they detest any kind of violence during Ramadan. So people are all everywhere going to go, oh, see, nothing happened. What were you expecting to happen? Nobody said that this was the end of the world. We said that National Guard was deported. There's going to be millions gathering, and the FBI is saying that there are threats worse than 2001. So why would you not want to prepare for something? It sounds crazy to me that people wouldn't see this as a potential for something to happen. If you have a Super Bowl game, they are all hyper vigilant. But nobody says, oh, a Super Bowl game is the end of the world. No, but it's 70, 80, 100,000 people gathering. So it is ripe for an event. As far as the end of the world, I didn't hear many people saying at all about the end of the world about that. Most people are saying we're in end times because look what is happening. But as far as this event, everybody is already going to be, oh, see, there's a lot of people that love being skeptics and critical about all of this, but yet every single time something like this happens, it's not exactly when they tell you. It's going to be later. It's going to be when you don't expect it. That's why I said this is not, I don't think it's going to happen on the day. I think it's going to happen in the weeks around it. If there is an event in the United States, first of all, I think if it's a really, really big event, it's going to happen closer to the day where we all pick people. That's what I have said for a very long time. As far as I put out a post at 4:30 in the morning. Today is the day, all the hype, the FBI warnings, the states of emergency, National Guard being deployed. While millions are gathering for the solar eclipse. I am praying that today ends with as little show as it is starting with. I would hope all of you will do as well. So this is the view that I have. I hope that everybody prayed it was nothing. But do we think that it's going to continue to be nothing? Are we going to drop our guard now because something magical didn't happen, that a leprechaun didn't pop out of the ground and say, T-attack? No, because I don't think we're in the clear. That doesn't mean anything. This was a solar eclipse. The only reason why this was a risk is because of the millions of people gathering. And then look at the 7-8 million people that have already come over, and we know that a huge chunk of the percentage of them are from bad places. This is a fact. It's not debated. If you look at the numbers coming from China, from Iran, from Russia, from Venezuela, from all of these different side groups, those numbers have shot up like a rocket. And people think that there's not going to be anything that results from that. At the very least, there's going to be Fantastic Freddy's. At the very least, there's going to be events. And not to mention, we haven't seen a massive, massive cyber event yet. And once we do, I think most people would say, I really hope, or I wish there wasn't one, and they were hoping it would be a nothing burger. But at someday, it's not going to be a nothing burger. And if you think that someday is 10 years out, then you're crazy. Look at where we are. Look at what happened in the last 4 years. Look at what happened in 2019. Look at what happened in 2020. You think that this next time is going to be any different? They're already changing things right now. It's coming, and I think people need to buckle up, not unfasten their seatbelt and go, oh, we're over the big hill. No, that's crazy. And then as far as Haiti could be taken over by Russia-backed gang, this is more signs. We knew this was going to happen. Of course, do you remember the other day we showed you that the people in Haiti were doing a protest, and they just magically had these like 4 by 6 foot flags with nicely screen printed pictures of Putin on them, because I guess the local screen printer in the ungoverned shack was making these flags like nothing else. Had pictures, nicely printed pictures of Putin, and they were saying, "Come save us." Right? It doesn't sound like 3-letter anything, but now all of a sudden they said Haiti could be taken over by Russian-backed gang. That's not my words. Dex, do you want to go over this?
Certainly. So, General Sir Richard Barons, he's a retired British Army officer. He was telling the media that there is evidence that Russia is trying to impose its influence on Haiti to strike a blow against the U.S. He said if the Russian-backed gang can take power, then that clearly swings Haiti into their camp right in the face of the U.S. He also said that Russia is very good at doing that, exerting power without risking military backlash. So I believe what they're taking here is some of that evidence that we saw and we reported on last week, but also other information that's sort of floating out there that's saying that he being Putin or Russia in general, is working with people to try to have influence and gain influence in Haiti. And we said this going into it. I said it would be the extreme. It would be the extreme for Russia and China to get there, because I couldn't imagine that the U.S., Mexico, or any other country in the general area, Canada included, would sit back and not just take action and allow that chaos to consume the country the way it did, because it's just going to create a vacuum, and then somebody can come in and create and take over and take control. And I just couldn't imagine that would happen. So here we are, potentially on the verge of the unimaginable happening, where maybe somebody like Russia is able to step in, and they're doing it covertly with another gang. Now, we haven't actually seen that happen outside of the protesters that were waving the Russian flags with Putin's picture all over it, things like that. But we will just wait and see. You're going to see this will probably turn up a little bit more, and it will probably create a lot of quick action and response from the U.S. if it actually does.
Now, lots of great people. Let's do a roll call real quick. And then somebody said you agree with everything Elon. I don't know if you are speaking to me, but I think that Elon agrees with everything that our community says. And I believe he watches our community, and not by just us, the entire community of preppers and things like that. You can tell he is kind of a doomsdayer. He has said it. I'm sure that in his off time, people think it's so crazy that he would be watching this community. And by community, I mean not only channels like us, but channels in this. From Alaska Prepper to Canadian to Magic to all these different preppers and things, and to this niche. Look at how he has just come out and said all of this stuff over only just like the last 6 months since he's come out with all of his views. But before that, many people, including Jacob Israel, said, hey, he's putting this out right after I put out a video. It's like nobody believed him, but yet now he's come straight out and kind of shown his supposed views. And it's like, yeah, he's watching this kind of stuff. So people see that and go, oh, we're not copying Elon. Elon's watching this kind of content. I'm telling you, he's said that the end of the world, he's building a rocket system to go to Mars because he believes it's the only way the human society will survive. Which we're going to show you here in a minute. Amazon has already put 2-meter tall, 6-foot robots in their freaking warehouses. These things are carrying boxes from one place to the next. It's absolutely creepy. But it's really quite alarming if you think about it. Let's see here. Steven, what's going on? We've got Michigan in the house. Elon isn't on Team US. Well, his second biggest company is in China. That's one thing that a lot of people criticize him for. Southern Idaho, what is happening? But as far as Elon, a lot of the things he's saying, it completely lines up with what we're all saying. I mean, it's hard. I've said this before. It's hard not to want to support somebody who's getting absolutely crapped on by all of the MSM. I think that we have a kind of a thing with if somebody is getting crapped on by the MSM who's getting attacked and hit, that a lot of us kind of like, well, it kind of must be over the target type of thing. But who knows? There's 4D chess going on. Gidget, greetings from northern Utah, Marf. Delaware in the house. Much love and respect to mods. Jordan, what is happening? We have J-Girl, that's me. Let's see here. Genius by birth, what is happening? James Damron over on Twitter or X. And then Juby Joe, testing my dream sleep with selective stuff. Well, that should be interesting. Sign Digger, let's see here. Mr. Perkins, what is happening? Heather Hanks Hill. We have Firebrand, the Doge Phoenix, what is happening? Kathy Piana, Susan in the house. Let's see here. Typical English guy, what's going on? And nickel-wise, we've got Oregon, California, Florida in the house. We have Arizona in the house. We have Indiana in the house. Nice to see you guys. And so many more. Real cozies. A lot of new names. All right. And Rambo's Granny. Nice to see you from Region 7. Mitchmouth and Obsidian Survival. Hey, nice to see you. Daggett and Stump and so many more. All right. And we have drone strikes that supposedly hit Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Now, this has been the buzz for a couple days now. There on the 6th, actually, there was a rumor that went out through Telegram that this was being targeted, but then that actually came out as it was false. Now we have the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant was hit by a series of drone attacks on Sunday, in the first attacks on the plant since November of 2022. What's funny is I think the stuff on the 6th was somebody reusing the stuff that was back in November and then trying to pass it off as new news. Now they're saying that it has actually happened. So I don't know if that was predictive or just a coincidence or an accident or part of something else. But Vlad's country and UKR have both denied responsibility, blaming the other for endangering Europe's largest nuclear power plant, which Vlad's forces have controlled since March of 2022. The IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, said that there was no signs that the strikes had compromised the facility's nuclear safety, but its chief warned that such reckless attacks significantly increase the risk of a major nuclear incident. And who would this affect? Again, that is in UKR, but they said that plant would affect a good chunk of Europe if something really, really bad happened. They've shown the maps of kind of where the air would bring it, and it wouldn't be a good thing if it ended up failed. There's been a lot of kind of concerning things with that plant, from the backup generators, being down, to the water shortage of something. I think it was something with the river, and it was redirected, or there was some sort of explosion or something. Dex, what was that? Do you remember when there was there an explosion that rerouted the river or something, and it took away the water that they used to cool it?
Yeah, the dam. There was a dam that had backed up all the water, and it got struck, and that caused the water levels to lower in that area, which those water channels had fed were the water that was feeding into Zaporizhzhia for cooling. They didn't fall low enough, I think, to cause any damage, but it was a concern that could be the case.
Yeah, now that was in the Dnipro, right? The Dnipro River. So there's been one thing after another. And then in the beginning where they were fighting, if you remember, we covered this when they built the water bridges, and at first they were saying supposedly tanks were going over. Then they said it was fake. Then they actually showed that they had built a bridge there. They were taking tanks over, and that's when they had the shelling battle. And they showed pictures of the roof of Zaporizhzhia, and that several shells had hit it. So we'll see. Ivan Zavala, I think it's half and half. I think people either do or they don't, or they're in the middle. They think it's some sort of op or something. And then Beer Juice, what is happening? Wages World, thank you. Yeah. Wages World says, at Dix James, you have a steel trap for a memory. I couldn't do that when I was 18, let alone now. Yeah, it's Dex is good at remembering. And before we move on, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, if you don't have a backup power supply, highly recommend getting yourself a gas-powered generator. But if you already have one, highly recommending getting yourself a Flex Tactical solar generator is one of the best units out there. Again, this is a modular and expandable solar generator. You can actually expand this up to 96 batteries. It is the same company and the same unit that just shipped out for the STTR Phase 2 contract with the Army. The Army actually chose Energy because of the toughness of the overall quality and, of course, the reliability. They don't care if it's pretty. They care if it turns on and turns on every time. Now, in an SHTF situation or even a bad storm or even using it for work and powering your drills, you want it to work and you want it to work every time. As far as the batteries, they actually have built-in heaters in each one. It has a 1,500-pound latch system. This thing could fall off a truck and stay connected. And then, of course, a steel-reinforced frame. It is a beautifully, beautifully put-together machine. It's like appliances used to be. Go over to marfooglenews.com/energy, I-N-E-R-G-Y, code Marfoogle. I would say the small downside, and I think it's the only downside to this generator, because it can expand and mod to do anything that anybody else can, and it's not connected to some front of a company that's supporting, Xi's country. This company, again, I say the only downside right now is the weight on lithium and the weight on your actual unit. So if there was any downside, that would be it. Other than that, I think that this is the highest quality generator on the market as far as expandable and modular. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, I-N-E-R-G-Y, code Marfoogle, not only to save money, but to help support our independent channel. We are completely independent, therefore we can give our opinions and not somebody else's. All right, and then Dex, let's go over the Russian missile ship on fire in NATO Lake.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. So this is the area near Kaliningrad, and if you guys remember, that is as they call it, an exclave. That is the area that's surrounded by the European countries in the Baltic area up there that is part of Russia, but not attached to mainland Russia. So that waterway in that area there, it was in the port, and it was a Serpukov. It's a small missile ship. So it's an important ship. It's not a very big one, but it's a missile ship. It fires missiles. As a matter of fact, I think it had been used in the past to launch one of the Caliber missiles and some of the other newer technology that they've been touting as having. But nonetheless, what has come out, and this is not 100% confirmed, but it's confirmed, at least coming out from UKR sources. UKR says the ship was on fire. UKR, the main Directorate of Intelligence, HUR operations, came out citing, first off, citing that there was unnamed security services, that the repairs are going to take a long time. In other words, it was probably sabotaged. So that's what we're getting. The HUR later claimed, the HUR later claimed responsibility for the fire and posting a video to one of its channels on Telegram, purporting to show the setting of it on that vessel. So there has been an ongoing battle with UKR against Russia's Navy, and it's probably one of the few things they've been fairly successful at, whether it be with the drones in the water, some of the missiles they've been able to strike naval ships with. In this case, they're now reaching up in some sort of sabotage style into a ship in Kaliningrad, or in what they call the NATO Lake up there in that part of the sea there, so the Baltic Sea. So anyway, it's not monumental in the sense that, oh my gosh, everything's just changed, but it is another significant step for UKR against Russia. It doesn't change the tide. It doesn't shift anything, in my opinion. It will probably warrant a response, just like they always get, which means much more and more bombardment from Vlad into UKR. But it's an interesting, because it's changed. It's a little different. A lot of the other naval ships have all been down in the area where UKR is, not up here in the Baltic.
As far as zoomed in on the different ships that were here during the actual satellite photos, it very well could have been one of those if it truly did go down as they say. And then the day of nuclear Armageddon, newly declassified documents reveal in a macabre minute-by-minute detail what the end of the world would be like and why those vaporized instantly by an atomic bomb will be the lucky ones. So there's a lot of talk about this, especially after the interview about one of the experts went on, what was that guy's name? Lex Fried, I think? Yeah, it was Lex Fried that did the interview of a woman author that put together a lot of actual data on what it would be like to actually have a nuclear attack. Now, just to clarify for anybody that's new here, I do not think we will ever see a mutually assured destruction war. I don't think we will see a nuclear war. I think that they will go conventional or EMP or cyber before any of that would ever happen. The reason why is they want to take everything in one piece, and nobody wants to do a mass pact of taking themselves out. As far as with a tactical nuke, that is very possible. And I've said that for 5-6 years now. Now more people are adopting it because it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to destroy everything and irradiate it to where you cannot use that land or use those places. If you're going to go to war with a country, I mean, eventually you'll want to either take control or to have it conquered. You're not going to want it be an irradiated mess, and you're not going to want to deal with all of the mess of that. But as far as, with everything that's going on, a tactical nuke or something like that, a single one or something that starts off something, that would be possible. This goes into detail about the disturbing nature of what would end up happening. It says, as the plans for, and by the way, there's actual plans. This goes back to what I said years ago after talking about the book, trying to remember Daniel Ellsberger. He actually was one of the nuclear war planners back in the day. This was, I think, back in the 60s, back when we all thought we were actually going to go to war. And his book is... Dex, can you look up the name to Daniel Ellsberg's book? Because it is pretty insightful. He talks about how he would go into the office with the U.S. government, and his day-to-day would be planning with a bunch of other people, just like a regular 9-to-5. He said it was the weirdest thing. It would be going into a 9-to-5 like you'd be going in to be a cashier at a grocery store, only your day-to-day job was planning on how to destroy every single city, not only in Russia, but in every single city in China. That they would casually talk about basically destroying all life on Earth. And this was their actual job. They have these kinds of plans. Does that mean that they're going to be used? Absolutely not. I believe it was something of along the lines of Daniel Ellsberg, nuclear planner, something. Dex, do you have it pulled up? It's
yes, I do. It is Daniel Ellsberg's The Doomsday Machine Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner.
The guy was also a whistleblower. He was also a Vietnam whistleblower. And he was a doomsday planner. Those same plans are going on right now. But I see things like when I see Russia is making 15 and 30 ton conventional bombs, some of the biggest explosives ever made that are conventional, I think they're not going nuclear. If they are going to do anything nuclear, it would be a tactical strike or something like that, and we would be aware of it before it happened. They would, beat their chest and says we're doing it anyway, because they wouldn't want somebody else to launch a whole, huge, crazy bombardment of nuclear missiles. I think that this is all going to be conventional. They're going to turn the power off. They're going to turn the lights off, and they're going to attack that way. But Dex, there's some other creepy stuff in here. Do you want to go over that?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we covered this similar topic like a week or so ago, and we talked about this. It was the idea that there was numerous scenarios where it seemed like orders were given to launch only to be pulled back after they were found to be inaccurate or something was in error. And fortunately, they were all able to be pulled back. And the point was, it could have only been a few moments away before it wouldn't have happened. You wouldn't be able to pull that back. And I totally agree with you. I agree with you that fundamentally, I don't think it makes any sense for Vlad or even JB or G or anybody to actually go full scale. Maybe tactical here and there, but to go full scale, no. And it's questionable if they would even go tactical. And I say that because I agree with you, but I think the fear that we have and the real fear that we should consider is the accidental scenario, because it has happened in the past and it can happen again. And once it gets past that 3-minute period, there is no coming back. There is no fail safe. And so if it does happen, it might not be because somebody literally pushed the button and said, you know what, I'm putting an end to it all. It could have been that it was all one giant mistake, and we then have to suffer the consequences. And that's what's scary. Now, this report, as it says, came out and was talking about what the events would look like, and it was specifically focused on DC. It was talking about the fact that it's all classified, except some of the information has been declassified, and they were able to sort of construct from the declassified documents about what the details would be in the city when, obviously the Pentagon being one of the first targets to take out when that strike happened. And it's a long read. If you're interested, you should read it. You should go take a look, because it's pretty fascinating if you don't understand how the actual dynamics of one of those devices going off at the large level. It wasn't even that large. I think they were just talking a single megaton. But even, and I imagine they get even bigger than that. But the descriptions of what would happen, how many miles, what would happen to the people, what would happen to objects in the air, what would happen to animals, birds, all of that, and even like what happens to concrete at that time. It's pretty enlightening. And I think part of this is being put out to sort of help push that anti-nuclear narrative, or at least get the public behind, hey, we don't want to go to this type of war. And I think they want to see people get back to, or see the leaderships of these countries get back to nuclear treaties where they start doing less nuclear and trying to pull that back like we used to do. We used to start de-arming the nukes and trying not to build new nukes. There was a long period of time where nobody was building anything new. And that seems to have gone out the window, and now we're all racing to make bigger, better, faster. And it's just bigger, better, faster, complete doomsday. And it doesn't necessarily lead to anything positive. The only thing it does is potentially have deterrence, but that's it. And it leads a big open hole for risk, like we described earlier, which is if something does happen and it's a mistake, or even worse, the risk that we don't know that's coming, which is AI. And when that takes over, could that be used against us?
And there was a few parts that found interesting. They said most won't make it more than a few steps from where they're standing when the bomb detonates. They become what civil defense experts referred to in the 1950s, when these grim calculations first came to be, as dead when found. So even if you were walking and talking and saying hello, you're basically done, right? And the people in a certain radius, depending on the megaton size, they say will be incinerated instantly. So it would actually be, and everybody knows this, everybody I've ever talked to about nuclear weapons, they say, well, I'd rather be hit directly rather than outside of it. We all know this from, heck, Hollywood and everything else, talking about, you're incinerated if you're right there. If you're outside of this, you're irradiated. You've got cancers within days, if you even do survive. We know this because they experimented on people. All the people of the islands that got all of these horrible things, all the people that perished early. There's a lot of scandal behind all of the nuclear conflict testing, and we know this. There's entire generations of families that were cut out in their prime because they lived on a certain island or they lived near these places. These kind of things, the irradiated people of that. If you look into all of those people that, I forget the island name, but there's an island that they still to this day live on, and there's people that have just numerous issues. And the U.S. government did a lot of nasty stuff. They purposely moved people where they were basically using people as guinea pigs. to see how their reaction would be. They would load them up in little bins. They would be wearing full suits, and they would test how they were being affected, and they didn't tell them the true ramifications of living in certain places. It's pretty bad. But as far as these nuclear kind of events, I don't think this is going to happen. And people are more worried about this. And the reason why more people are worried about AI or something like this is because, more important, if we lose our power, if we lose everything else, we are absolutely in a worse off position. It would be worse to lose the entire grid in the entire country, just power, nothing else. No one perishes that first day the power goes out. It would be worse than if 5 or 10 of our U.S. cities or 20 of our U.S. cities were completely wiped off the map by a nuclear weapon. Even if you had the whole state of California, the whole state of Washington, the whole state of New York, the whole state of Florida wiped up completely off the map, it would be worse than that to lose our power grid. Their estimates are 90% of our population would die in the first year, and that is because it is simple. Without power, without power, you do not have water, and without water, you do not survive. There's so many people that are completely dependent, not only on the modern day cell phone, internet, this and that, but we are all dependent on electricity. Every one of our infrastructures are dependent on electricity. This is the more likely scenario. In the meantime, what everybody was worried about today with this whole solar eclipse, people were worried about dirty boom booms going off places. That we know this because the government is deploying National Guard and things like this, checking bags in the New York subways. They're doing that most likely for radiation or for some sort of explosives, something like that. Or they're purposely telling us that, so that's what we think. Either way, it's kind of alarming. I believe even if this was all fake and orchestrated, that they would organize this so it would get worse and worse and worse before the big event where we select who goes up, right? It is very, very believable, and I believe this is exactly what's going to happen. I believe that we will be at a full-on war before the next prez, and very well could end up differently. And that's one thing I am saying my opinion is, which I don't say, on April 8th or August 8th or whatever the world ends. Never, ever say anything like that. I say be prepared for possible events, especially when you have a lot of people in one place. It's an easy target. It's how the bad guy thinks. And of course, the bad guys also watch what we are talking about. Sometimes we wonder if it changes because so many people are aware of what may happen. They do not want that. They want you to be surprised. They want you to be completely unprepared. It just makes a whole lot more sense. So if you're prepared on the 8th, after nothing happens, everybody goes, see, nothing happened. Within 3 days, they know that most people forget the news cycle and they completely go about their business. They go back to their 9 to 5. They forget all about it. They get distracted by the next nip slip on TV or the next, devilish performance by some Hollywood, music artist or something. But they do not keep that fire under their feet to keep prepared. That's the difference between normal people and preppers. We are constantly watching what may happen, and we are trying to predict using patterns that are very, very obviously and blatantly put out right in front of us to predict the closest thing to the future as we can. It's not a crystal ball. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but what it can do is it can have you prepared for most events. It's the same thing that the government and the military does, and yet nobody says that they're crazy. When they drill the same things, when they're drilling for these exact events to go down, when they're doing these exercises 24/7, mind you, all over the world, they're doing these drills and exercises, people don't criticize that. But when human beings, when civilians do it, oh, you're crazy. But yet the people that are in charge of us are doing it all the time. And guess what? Are we the priority in that scenario? No, we are not. The government, the infrastructure, and everything else is. That's why we say you need to protect yourself. You need to have your own self ready because nobody's going to come save you. We know this from events like Hurricane Katrina. That was a perfect example. The people were left literally high and dry on a bridge. Meanwhile, what happened? there was a lot of people that were stuck there. I'm surprised looking back too, like, why didn't everybody volunteer from around the country and fly in helicopters and help and blah, blah, blah. There was a lot of help, mind you, but there was so many. It took 5 days to get water into the Superdome. Drinkable water. That's horrendous, okay? And before that, people think of that as so long ago. Before that, 30 years before that, they had an agency dedicated to every kind of disaster. They have an agency dedicated to every sort of disaster you think of, and they're still not prepared. And guess what? They're the most unprepared for our entire grid going down. And we know our entire grid can go down. It's a fact. The grid that we have outside of our homes, that grid is the same grid you've had for decades and decades and decades. There's been little tweaks and little upgrades, but it is still extremely vulnerable, and I would say that the majority of it is not ready for an EMP or electronic warfare, which has been updated. Every country has the ability to knock down our grid. Why hasn't it happened? Well, it's kind of they want to unalive themselves if they do that, or it's because they're waiting for the right time. Whatever happened in 2001, you can, and again, I think many people believe that it was not anything like what they said it was. Something like that, again, could also be used to change the world, to change the power structure, to force people to do something that they just don't want to do. People do not want to change. People do not want to change their ways. And now with the internet, with social media, everything else, they have learned that they can now control everything, including dissent. So you're going to have to, the days that there isn't stuff like this that is readily available, which it will come at some point, that is the day that you need to start really, really thinking about these things on your own. You shouldn't need this kind of channel or anybody in our niche to remind you. You should be thinking about this stuff way long ago. And then South China Sea, U.S., Japanese, and Australian warships joined Philippine forces in the South China Sea patrol. Let's see here. First off, though, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sweatin' Ministries. I appreciate you. Thank you. Zen1AZ this week. I appreciate you. Stephen Click. Thank you. Appreciate that support. We have, let's see here. Says Dexamar for Super Smart. Coronal mass ejection on Eclipse photos. Looks like pyramid on the sun. Eclipse explains more than people think. You know what's funny is it was weird. The first thing asked, what do you call it, Dolly to make a picture of the eclipse. The first picture, no other description, just solar eclipse. And it made an eyeball out of the solar eclipse. It was very creepy. It looked like the all-seeing eye. To say the least, I used a different one. But Google search Bible verses talking about judgment and see what God wants from you. Lists telling you how to properly judge others in righteousness. And that's another thing that today is rampant, is people judging everybody else, people fighting with everybody else. It's insane. Gunpowder Production says, sent pics I took of Eclipse on X in comments. You could see a solar storm, and when I changed contrast, the moon looked like another planet. FFAM. Did you send that to us? Let's see here. Dex, I don't know if I can try to pull that up if he sent it to me. So do you want to cover the next story here, which is the Australian warships?
Yeah, certainly. So U.S., Japanese, and Australian warships are going to now participate in the sea patrol. This was the one that is the joint patrolling with the Philippines throughout the South China Sea. So 6 warships, 4 aircraft from Australia, Japan, and Philippines, and the United States have conducted a joint patrol. So this is the first of many. They're going to continue doing these patrols. So it's officially dubbed the Australia, Japan, Philippines, United States Maritime Cooperative Activity. Surprised I didn't turn into some acronym that they could actually say. But these joint patrols began actually last November in response to some of the incidents that happened between Manila and Beijing. But we have reinforced them when Blinken went over, saying we were going to do them even more. China's Coast Guard has obviously ramped up their presence in the sea there, and specifically around the atolls that the Philippines is trying to claim and also continue to resupply. So this is a greater chance, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, because I kind of feel like I am, because we keep saying it, but the more we put in, the more China puts in other words, the more ships they put into the engagement, the more the West or the U.S. and its allies put in, the greater the chance for conflict, the greater for chance for some sort of kinetic activity to go down between them, which will then kick things off. If it was just a couple boats here and there, then, it would stay that way. But we're just adding more fuel to the fire, so to speak. So we're going to continue doing it. And this is not just a drill. It's not called a drill. It's called a patrol. It means they're going to continuously start patrolling these areas. And they've even talked about doing this for as long as they need to help protect the Philippines and protect the claims that they have. So the more we put in, the greater the chance of escalation. And continue to watch this. You're going to see it. This is part of that escalation. Every time we see these changes that come through from either side, whether it's China putting in more, which they have, whether it's them arming their boats with these big water cannons or leveraging the big water cannons they have and literally blasting out the windows and injuring people on the Philippine ships that are just supplying. These aren't even warships. These are just ships supplying cargo. That's the type of activity that they've shown and they've seen and experienced, and that is what's going to escalate.
All of these areas here that they are going to be patrolling are all areas that now China has made official, put out a map saying this is all ours down here. All of the Philippines, their claim goes all the way out to here. China claiming that. Vietnam, they have one of the biggest areas that they are supposed to have control over, and that this would all be their sea. China also claims all of that. China has essentially, if you could see the Philippines, you could see all of the Philippines and Vietnam's hands out. China has basically put their hand on top of the pile of hands and said, "Nope, this is all mine." If you look at the map, it overlaps like a MasterCard sign, like the Olympics rings. It overlaps all of them. And they're stating they patrol this area with their world's largest navy. They're basically just saying, we're going to take this regardless of your claims. Now, with the U.S., Japan, South China Sea, and possibly India has been rumored to have been buying these sub-hunters for helping this or something. But for the fact that we know that these patrols are going to go down, that they just deployed 5 carriers over there just recently, this is on top of all of that. The deployments are going like crazy. The military leaves are getting denied right now, April into May. So I guess we'll sit and watch. We'll sit tight and assess. And then U.S. Japan to make historic announcements at summit, including on defense and AI. So as far as Japan and the U.S., they've been a part of this the Asian NATO and this alliance with Australia. Apparently, they are going to make a giant announcement. When President JB hosts Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida at the White House for an official visit on Wednesday, so that is in 2 days from now, a senior administration official tells ABC News that the two countries will make an historic announcement that will take U.S.-Japan alliance to new heights. My prediction is this is going to be a straight-up military alliance, some sort of treaty. And who knows, we might actually get surprised by other countries getting involved with this. Or it's a huge deal for manufacturing weapons. You can see that they are working together on missiles and hypersonics and different things. Or they're going to be in the Patriot missiles, that those kind of deals that went through, and jets and all these other things. I bet you it's either going to be a massive economy deal thing where they say it's, they're going to produce for us or they're going to buy from us or something like that. I think one of the most concerning things is if it is a military alliance that they start really taking actionable patrols and things like what they're doing, but on a regular basis. What are they going to end up saying? It's kind of crazy considering Japan was our enemy. Japan was Pearl Harbor. And now we're supposedly tighter than ever. Dex, they said that the leaders will unveil more than 70 programs and initiatives. So in there is, at the very least, going to be some economy boosting stuff, some stuff that they're going to say, oh, good job, JB, and it's going to possibly throw a rock at the mountain of debt. But I don't know what else it would do.
I'm totally on board with it being a military initiative. It's all military. It's got to, there'll be a few other little tiny things here and there, but the biggest part of this is more than likely, and this is just my guess, but I would be willing to take it to Vegas. It's going to be military, and it's going to be an alliance, and it may be, I don't know if it'll be the start, the announcement, or just the setting the foundation for creating that equivalent of a NATO of the Pacific. I know some have even said they ought to just expand NATO to the Pacific as opposed to creating yet another one. But who knows?
I don't know. I guess we'll be able to cover it, and we'll see how close we got to our guesses. And then I didn't want to miss you, Carlton Sutton. If you're still here, thank you so much for the support early on in the show. Appreciate that. I think I missed that earlier. And let's see here. Oh, thank you, Zen Wen, AZ, thank you for rejoining. Thank you, Team Alaska, for being a member. Scott Blake, Preppy, D-Tops, and then Danish Girl, thank you for rejoining as well. Jason Bishop, Shannon O'Toole, Be Real Beast, thank you. Esmeralda, Genius by Birth, of course, thank you for 7 months. And then looks like Latanya Heaton, thank you so much for joining as well. And see, some of the badges are getting up there. Each month that badge goes up. Or I think once you get past 6, then it's a year, then it's a year and 3 months, and then it's like 2 years. But Jonathan Floming, thank you. You got that the 6-month badge. And Samantha Snell, thank you guys. Thank you for supporting Independent. It really does make a difference. Thank you, and you are appreciated. And then South Korea launches second spy satellite in military intelligence race with North Korea. So does anybody else find it's odd that there's all of these weird space launches? They all are essentially top secret. They're all top secret payloads. A lot of them they say are spy satellites or that they are some sort of weather thing, but the details are not openly there. Even some of the things that are, by the way, there was 3 launches today. Dex, do we have an update? I didn't see any updates on these 3 launches that the U.S. did. Maybe we can find an update for today or for tomorrow, but they launched 3, the U.S. launched 3 rockets that were supposedly going to monitor things during the eclipse. So, but not everybody believes that these are all exactly what they say they are. I find it weird that every country in the world is either has a program or building a program to try to go to the moon. The fact that they are seriously trying to say that they're going to Mars. What the heck? What do they know that we don't where they need to go to Mars? I don't believe what is being said. I don't. If they are truly going to Mars, it is for a reason. Nobody does that just to certify something that's going to happen in thousands of years. No, Zuckerberg didn't just build the $270 million bunker mansion, and Sam Altman didn't do the same for no reason. These people are extremely well connected. They know the people at the very top. And if they're doing it, then I bet you there's a reason why. So I don't know what the heck is going on. By the way, there's a crazy video. Did I remember to send that to you? There's a video of the solar eclipse, and I don't know if it's a complete fake. But Bill Esquire on Twitter tweeted it, and it looks like there's some object in the sky during the solar eclipse, and then it looks like there's like a meteor coming into the atmosphere. It's not the devil comet. It's actually something that's burning up in our atmosphere in this video. Did I send that to you, Dex? I can't remember if I did or not. I'll try.
No, I do not have it.
Okay, I will. I will find that right now. Let's see here. I think I might have actually retweeted it. If I didn't, I should have. That one was really good. Oh, and by the way, this happened over the last couple days. Let's see. Let's get to the part so you can read it. So this was on yesterday, right? In Michigan, they were chanting "Blank to America" in Dearborn, Michigan. I know we have a lot of Michigan folks here. I'm sure you probably heard about this. That's kind of insane. And people think, oh yeah, nothing. It's all a big nothing burger. One thing I do believe that these people have is patience. I think that whatever is going on, I think that they are very patient. I think timing is everything. And I think that timing is soon going to be apparent. But yeah, I'll show you that here in a minute. As far as this, the weird stuff coming out of space, it's just nuts. And as far as the spy satellite, this is, people are saying it's in response to North Korea's spy satellite. And the Koreas launched their first spy satellites last year, North Korea, and in November, South Korea. So both of them launched a spy satellite. Or is that exactly what they are? They said that their satellites would boost their abilities to monitor each other and enhance their own missile attack capabilities. So if they spark off, if they go to full-on war, you can almost guarantee the U.S. is going to get involved like we did last time. Like Russia did last time, like everybody else that got involved. So I guess we will see what ends up happening with that. And if you have information on that, either email me at adam@marfooglenews.com or, again, tag me on Twitter if you see something on X. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. If you want to protect yourself against an EMP or a Carrington-level event from the sun, this is a super easy device to put in your cars, trucks, motorcycles, or boats, even your home, or even your ham radio, or your generators, such as a Flex Tactical, or even your gas-powered generator. The device wires in with as little as 3 wires and bolts to the side of your engine block, and this will allow your vehicle to not only ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second of an EMP strike, it can actually handle multiple. If there's a Carrington-level event, it, again, will be able to also withstand that as well. That way your car will still run, your electronics will still work, and you will still be able to drive from point A to point B to either bug in or to get out to bug out. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is something that is preventable. If the entire world had this, EMP would not be a weapon. It would be a useless piece of junk. So again, this is the same company that's outfitted agencies like DHS, DOD, and the DEMSO team. So the U.S. Gov and military are actually actively preparing for this with companies not only like EMP Shield and others, but they are not doing anything for the civilian end of this. So if you want to protect yourself, go over and check it out. marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. All right, and did Israel surrender to White House pressure on the Strip subject? Iran likely thinks so. Dex, do you want to talk about this? And then I'll cover the NOTAMs.
Yeah, certainly. So this is going to be an interesting set of information. We're going to talk to you about what's going on in the Middle East, because you're going to see the story sort of shift, ebb and flow as we go through this, kind of in chronological order, or at least in which the appearance of what has happened. So as we reported last week, our president put out some pretty strong words saying, if you don't back off completely from Rafah and what's going on in the Strip, then the U.S. won't support you anymore. Now, we then heard that they were going to pull IDF out, or pull back some, and they were doing it because they said they were starting to have negotiations. So now, this first article is talking specifically about the optics around what does that look like to Iran. And certainly it makes them look like, hey, the U.S. actually wields the power here and was able to, sort of tell is to stop doing what they're doing, and they're backing off. So that's an interesting perspective. It's also one in which we're still, I guess the verdict is still out as to whether or not it has worked. And you'll see why as we progress through some of these stories about what's happening in the Middle East. So keep that in mind as we move forward. But that's what they're talking about. So the first early stages where they started to pull forces back, I wouldn't say completely out. It's not like they completely went out, but they were pulling back from what they were doing under the notion that they were going to start negotiations. But all of this was right after JB made the phone call saying, if you continue, we're not going to support you anymore.
And then this, of course, because it is Tuesday, April 9th, I was like, wait, it's as in Tehran, there were supposedly NOTAMs, FAA post NOTAMs for Tehran, Iran, claiming rocket launches expected and military action. So these are supposedly some of the NOTAMs that actually went out. As far as some of the things that are going on, a lot of folks are waiting for different responses, different attacks to happen. And of course, at the same time, they're saying that, there's possibly going to be some ceasefires. So it's like the actions don't exactly match the words. And Israel officials express optimism over ceasefire talks with Hamas. Senior Israeli officials said progress has been made in negotiations for a ceasefire in the Strip that would include the release of hostages and the Palestinian prisoners, a move that drew criticism from right ministers who threatened to bring down the government. It says, quote, "We've reached a critical point," Foreign Minister Israel Katz told Army Radio on Monday. "If matters work out, a large number of hostages will return home, and then in stages, everyone. But remember that we are dealing with us, and there's not a lot of time. I am more optimistic than I was." So there's, of course, the U.S. supposedly pulls support, or that's the optics of it. All of a sudden, there's hope for this ceasefire. They are now all the way down into Rafah. They say the last of the soldiers, or what they think, are in this last little area. But that also in that last little area, out of a 25-mile long strip, they put 2.2 in half of that, 2.2 million people, and then it got crunched down even further to now 2.2 million people in a tiny strip of only a few miles. That is also containing all of the rest of the folks from us, the soldiers. But now, as they were going to go into Rafah, the whole world yelled and says, no, don't do it. You'll lose so many civilians. And they said, we'll pull out. We're not going to support you financially if you do, which is really quite a huge thing, considering how lockstep the U.S. has been with Israel. Now all of this is happening. Is it all on purpose? Is this all part of a grander thing that is going on right now? Is this part of a grand theater that, we're all watching this, and what's really happening behind the scenes? But it is, and I want to point out, Japan, during Pearl Harbor, when Pearl Harbor happened, we were in negotiations with Japan. So I like to point that out when people talk about peace talks and things like this between parties. It almost sets up a crazier, event. It very well could be. Everybody's thinking, oh, it's peacetime. It's going to work out. And everybody's talking about optimism and it's all going to work out. That's when the most likely time period is when something could pop off. Hopefully everybody gets through it. Dex, now they all of a sudden have optimism over the ceasefires.
Well, yeah, so this is just reinforcing at least one side of the spectrum inside of Israel and what their position is. So you've got this, one portion saying, yeah, we're making progress and we're going to be able to pull back and hopefully it'll work out. But this story continues to progress. So don't leave now and think everything's okay.
We'll talk about the deadlocked truce talks.
Okay, so now Netanyahu has come out and said, hey, the truce talks that we've started, they're at a deadlock and they're not moving and nothing's going to happen. So he has set the date for the offensive. So now you see how quickly everything just shifted. We went from the JB saying, don't go in, or we won't support you, to, okay, fine, we're starting to negotiate. The optics to Iran says, oh, look, U.S. has all the power there. And now they're coming out at the end of the weekend or starting into Monday saying, no, you know what, we've now set the date and we're going to go in. So they are claiming that the Hamas organization rejected the proposal. I'm sure we don't know what how strict the terms were or in what favor they were in, but nonetheless, the negotiations weren't able to be completed. So now they have set the date to move forward. So we don't know the details of the proposal. I don't even believe we know the date, because I don't think they would actually say the date. They just say they have the date of when they're going to start moving in and move forward with this. So
well,
now,
listen to the quote. The Netanyahu, we are constantly working to achieve our goals. First and foremost, the release of all of our hostages and achieving a complete victory over Hamas. Doesn't sound like he's going to give up. And this victory requires entry into Rafah and the elimination of the T battalions. So and it says it will happen. There is a date. He did not specify the date. So he's literally saying, I don't care what anybody says. And also he's saying that all these people are going to perish that are part of these battalions. That we're going to go, that is a complete victory for them, not just a release hostage situation.
Exactly. And Adam, the other thing to think about here for everyone to pay attention to is there's a divide in their country, just like there's a divide in our country. And you're seeing, what started off with unity and everybody got rallied behind this one cause. And there was a little bit of divide, but it wasn't that strong in the beginning. They're like, yes, we must retaliate. Yes, we can't have what happened to us in October be allowed. That should be stopped. We should go after them. We'll ask the questions later, move forward. To now, there's this strong divide and split in the country from people that are wanting one side or people that are wanting the other, like the rhetoric you're hearing from Netanyahu here about we have to complete everything and go through, get everyone out and eliminate the organization, where others are taking a different approach. So this divide is now, you can see it between the U.S. and the leadership of Israel. You can also see it inside Israel, and that's what's crazy.
And they say that there are still 133 captives, which, again, I was just talking about this the other day. I didn't see too much of an update on how many they still had left. Remember in the first few weeks, they released pairs of 2, and we always saw that. We saw the video of them coming out. And what's so crazy is there was so much vitriol around the fact that every person that got released had some sort of positive interaction with the people that were holding them. The 2 older ladies, the older lady gave the T guy with the crazy mask, gave him a hug and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, there was debate on whether that group was a third party that was involved in the release and that they were the saviors, or if those were the bad guys, right? But we saw those, and either way, it caused this big vitriol around it. You saw the 2 gentlemen, you saw the older folks, and then after that, you didn't see any more. There was no more public releasing, but yet they've released. Dex, 120 people have been released, but we didn't see any of them on video, did we? Is there some website that's covering the release of over 100 people? Because I didn't know that. I guess I've been following.
I mean, we saw the ones that, like you said, hugged their, the
captor
person that was turning them over. I don't know if it was their captors, but it was somebody that was there presenting them.
Which I could understand why, even if you were in a middle party, you would cover your face. You wouldn't want any of the bad guys from either side, whichever side is wanting to take out the other side, not showing your face. But still, I found it kind of crazy that like 95 people or 100 people got released, and we never really saw that. Wasn't much coverage either, and we followed this every single day. But either way, they're calling for the freeing of all of it, and they say any person that's still in those battalions, they want gone. So if those are the agreements, I'm sure that the guys that are in those battalions are not really telling their bosses like, it's okay, I'll sacrifice myself for peace. I don't think so. And yeah, there's a date set, and they don't tell you the date. That's why I said they have patience, that's for sure. And then Dex, how much do we do militarily with Israel? How much do we trade with them on military equipment? It's a lot, isn't it? I thought of the whole thing with Japan. Now
it's pretty significant. 38 billion. It says here the U.S. has provided Israel 38 billion in military aid over the course of a 10-year memorandum. That was back in 2016.
Well,
that's been ongoing.
Isn't it convenient that Japan is stepping in and they're going to make this big announcement, and possibly because now Japan has all of a sudden went from a defensive country, changed their constitution. They're going to be building up their military. Now they're in the top 5 military budgets in the world. Now they're talking to the U.S. At the same time that we're saying that we're going to cut support for Israel, all of a sudden there's this big announcement coming. It makes me think that there's going to be a big weapons contracts system that's going to be going with Japan at the same time as they're going to be pulling back out of this thing with Israel, which is crazy because everything that we've known for our entire lives, everything is being shuffled around. Every tradition, every relationship between country, every culture in the world, in the Western world, is changing right now. And the same playbook is being played all over the world. We're all being divided and torn apart. Young versus old, this color versus that color, this side versus that side, this party versus that party, this religion versus that religion. Everyone is being split down the middle. I see the external interference with all of this. I hope most of you do too. But yeah, this is getting crazy. And then now they say Netanyahu faces mutiny, or at least this is what they're saying, as top ministers demand full-scale invasion plows on after IDF troops pulled from South Strip. So, Dex, now they're saying mutiny.
Well, yeah, so, and obviously he has come out and said, well, don't worry, we've got a date set. So you've got this division. This goes back to the part of there's division. There's people that were wanting him ousted, just as much as there are people that said, wait a minute, you started negotiating. That's absolutely crazy. We're going to oust you now if you're going to do that. You got to go in and finish the job. So he's in a difficult position as a leader for that country, because he's got, on one side, the party he's a member of is, got some serious demands on him, as well as the rest of the other half of the country is pretty much against, I would say against him, but against some of the fundamentals of what's happening and how things are moving forward. So you've got this huge divide being fueled by people like the U.S. And being fueled by lots of different players, I'm sure. And a lot of it is certainly political as well. And it's, that when that happens, that is a ideal opportunity for a country not to be successful in actions that they're taking when it comes to wartime. Because when your country is divided, when your country is not unified, it becomes very difficult to actually move forward successfully, because you're not just fighting an enemy on the outside, you're also fighting the proverbial enemy within.
Yeah, so, and that part, we don't know what is actually going to be Ganda, what truth we're getting. Obviously, all media, whether it's Western or Eastern media, everyone is getting things through kind of the filter of whatever agendas are out there. So yeah, we'll follow this, and we'll continue to let you know what ends up happening. But I would buckle up, as my friend Jacob would say, this entire week. I think I think that everybody's now going to drop their guard, and I think that's the kind of the stupidest thing to do right now. Dex, go ahead.
Just role play this for a moment. Imagine the U.S. had some sort of event, kind of like we had in 2001. We had our previous president, T-Man, in charge. Like, on one hand, you'd be like, well, yeah, heck yeah, he's going to go kick some butt. But imagine the scenario he was in with more than half of the entire political and governmental structure going against him, and him having to also, and including military leadership too, right? Some, not all, but some. So just like replay that and imagine if we were in that same scenario. You could flip it around and look at, say, could JB be successful actually doing that with just as much consternation and just as much political tension and naysayers that are pushing hard against him from the other side. The division, and that's what they want. They want division. They want division in the people. They want division in the parties. They want division in the countries because it makes them weaker. Unification makes them stronger. Division makes them weaker.
I mean, look at the fact that the general population outnumbers 1,000 to 1. The people that could, really treat us like crap if they wanted to. If they wanted to, they have structure. They have unification. They are unified in their agendas. The world now, as far as the people in charge, they are unified. They have the same common goals. And when you have unified common goals, you are extremely powerful. I see too, so say in the other side of the party, the right side, right? I see so much inner division in just people, in fact, that aren't going along with this. They are then triple divided. Everybody is arguing about this or that. Everybody has different opinions, but they can't see eye to eye on, even that should fundamentally be on the same side and be agreeing with each other. They're fighting with each other about little things. So you disagree with me on this. Oh, well, I can't even listen to that then. You think this about that, so now I can't listen to you. Even though you agree with 99% of the other stuff that they're talking about. It's crazy how well division can tear us apart. You can say one thing for people that are brainwashed is they're all brainwashed the same way, and they're much stronger that way. That's really scary, because if you look at any country that has brainwashed people this well, they become one of the most powerful forces on the planet. So keep that in mind. Maybe that's the sign for us to all just start getting along, even if we disagree on some of the smaller issues or even some of the bigger ones. Now, again, if you haven't already checked out Jace, a lot of folks asked when all of the pharmacies went down nationwide. For as much as a week, you saw over 30,000 pharmacies had issues. They couldn't fill orders. They couldn't actually fill prescriptions. This scared a lot of folks, and we got a lot of requests on how to get backup medicines in case something goes down. Jace Medical is something that I've known about since early CV, and it is a great system. A lot of my peers have done the same as far as affiliated with Jace. So I knew kind of the back end for a couple years before we picked them up. But after the pharmacies going down and all of the requests, I ended up learning more about the Jace Daily. Now, the Jace case is awesome. It has antibiotics and different things, and you can add things to it, like the albuterol breathers and things like that. If you have somebody in your family with asthma, then it's extremely useful to have. But I also learned more about the Jace Daily. Now, the Jace Daily can give you up to a 12-month extended supply of meds. That is a 1-year backup supply that you can rotate into your current stuff. So say tomorrow everything fails, the pharmacies get hacked or something, you cannot go get your pharmacy script prescribed. Depending on what medicine you have, you may be able to get an entire year that is just sitting there. So then you will have a year backup supply. Or if it's current, because they're always going to end up sending you after you get the year, they make sure that you get it. then you'll be able to rotate it into your regular supply, and you'll always have a year there. So I think that that's a really important part. If you haven't already checked them out, go learn more. You will get a certified board certified doctor. It is a legit telehealth service that you can get that through. So again, if all of this goes down, no, you won't be able to go to the pharmacy. You won't be able to go get your stuff. But if you have a year, you'll be much better off than the people that have, say, 3 days or a month. Think about what happens when that runs out, especially on some of the more important medications. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/Jace. If you use the code MARF, not only will you save on the Jace case, but you can also save on other things there. So make sure to go there and learn more. That's marfooglenews.com/Jace, or JASE, and make sure to use the code MARF. Not only you give us credit and help us out as independents, but you end up saving money at the same time. It's a win-win. And this is a crazy one, so got to be careful on this one. So Xi's country supposedly using AI-powered social media accounts to influence a certain day in the future. And again, this is not us saying this. This is Microsoft. Microsoft, which also warned us about these crazy hacks going on, the same Microsoft that their founder and one of the biggest head honchos that is supposedly, stepped down, that guy cozying up in one of the few people that Xi or Xi's wife has actually come and visited, been to his house, ate dinner at their house like it was a restaurant. One of the few people that actually gets the red carpet service in Xi's country. That same company is now warning us that Xi will use artificial intelligence-powered social media accounts to sow division in the lead up to the next process. I'll say that way, right? This is going to be a hot topic in the months to come. They've already told us. They've already made announcements about this, that certain places have a responsibility to protect this event. So just watch. In the near future, a lot of stuff around this subject is going to be not only taboo, it's going to be crazy. So we're going to have to navigate some craziness in the coming months. But yeah, the Threat Analysis Center, Microsoft Threat Analysis Center General Manager Clint Watts claimed that Beijing is systematically harnessing social media to influence the decision. And guess what? They're saying between our former prez and the current one. So I'm guessing they might have an angle on this, saying that it's more towards a certain guy than another guy. But again, I'll leave you to read that. So you can believe it. You don't have to believe it. I do believe that Xi has over 1 million active soldiers that are just digital soldiers. They have the largest digital army in the world. But are they gearing it towards one thing or the other? Or are they preparing people for the fact that there's going to be an overwhelming presence of support for a certain person? Dex, go ahead.
Well, I asked the question, what are they doing with the data? When you think about somebody like ByteDance, who has the most powerful algorithm in the world, what can a country like China do with the same data in such an engaging way? And I know we're not talking about ByteDance here. We're probably talking about Facebook and X and maybe Instagram and some of those other platforms besides TikTok. Obviously, they can do what they want on TikTok because they control it. But if they're creating these polls to sow division, if they're creating these memes and creating these engagement points that they know are massively engaging people, what are they doing with the information that they may be gathering? And does that create something that's more powerful for them, regardless of what the outcome of the selection process is? Are they actually trying to create something that they can know more about the population or the individuals that they may one day want to control? And that's an interesting thing to think about, is building an algorithm on top of an algorithm. And we've seen the power that they have with something like TikTok. And if they're finding ways to not just influence, but take it to the next level because they have such a huge presence with these bots or with these people, millions of people that are employed, as well as countless number of bots on top of those people. What could they do with the information they get from us? And this is a very engaging topic. You know, it's not, I mean, it certainly can be just as engaging to talk about the latest Swifty event or whatever, you know, nip slip happened on TV. That doesn't really give them a lot of information and insight, but getting political information and insight on every person or a large number of people across social media might be valuable to them.
And I think of the two comedy specials called Irregardless. You caught yourself. You said regardless. I have, you know that after I keep saying irregardless, because you used it a long time ago and I started using it, and my wife just pointed out irregardless is not the thing, but you actually didn't say it.
I think it's a Southern thing. I don't know. That's the word we used around here.
Well,
it's irregardless. So, but hey, they're both in the dictionary. They're both valid words, and they mean the exact same thing.
There's whole comedy specials called Irregardless, because I think it is the South or Midwest or something that we say here in Washington. You know when somebody's from certain parts of Washington when they say Washington or washing machine. It's so weird because there's not an accent for. I don't think there's an accent for Washington. But there is. There's certain things with R's and things like that. But yeah. Anyways, it's funny when I do hear some of your accent come out. And then yeah. So there's so many crazy things that are going on right now. We will follow them all this week. So make sure to tune in. It's going to be I think it's going to be a crazy week. So tune in, don't miss out. It's going to be a good one. And then Stephen Click, thank you for your support. Carlton Sutton, Sweatin' Ministries, Zen1AZ, thank you, and thank you. Let's see here. Gunpowder Productions, thank you. And over on D-Live, thank you, Life is Better on Stilts. Thank you again. Thank you, Life is Better on Stilts. J-Girl, that's me. Beer Juice, Scooby, Do Right. We have Priscilla R. We have, of course, Kimbria. Thank you. Holiday Kisser and Chance. Thank you for modding. Thank you, Jammer, for modding. Thank you. I don't know if Rip made it tonight. Thank you, Ilea. Thank you to all of our mods. Go over to marfugglenews.com/friends. And then if you want to watch one of our latest Marfoogle News videos, make sure to click here. Or again, we will add in whatever the latest is from our sister channel right there. So click there. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Dex, thank you so much.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Ignorance is blissful. After the eclipse, the chips fall. Said it's gonna cause a big fall. Feels like we fell in a pitfall. Ignorance is blissful. All right, let's make a fresh one for, it looks like, Stephen Click, I believe, is the top. So hold on here.